Hi guys, it's me Ahmed back again with WDSportz with another interview, and today we've got Harry. Harry, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Harry. I'm a media assistant at Wythenshawe Town, and I'm here for the interview.
Yeah, I hope you're prepared for it because we're about to ask you some great media questions. First of all, Harry, before we get started, what made you want to take this role up at Wythenshawe?
Um, Mainly because I wanted some experience within a field that I felt that my future career path lay in, and it's been brilliant. I've had about 14 months probably here, and I've loved every second. Really have.
How did you first get into the role? Was it just something you found on the internet, or was it through another way?
Well, the previous head of media was in his third year and he was leaving, so he needed someone obviously to come in and take over. Um, and our lecturer just sent around an advert, and I got the email. I thought, well, that's perfect. That suits me. So I just went for an interview and got it. So,
Is this your first, almost, I want to say, taste, or if you want to use experience of non-league football? Prior, did you have no knowledge of non-league football, or did you have some? Did you used to go to games, or was it just mainly?
well, I think the thing is, when you've been brought up sort of mainly focusing around Premier League football and stuff like that, but it is there's a huge difference, obviously. But obviously, I've been involved in grassroots football my whole life, so I'm no stranger to non-professional football. Obviously, this is a hell of a lot higher than what I ever got, but I'm no stranger to it. I played a lot as a kid up to the age of about 17. I played grassroots, but yeah, non-league it is an eye opener, definitely. It's an eye opener from the whole glitz and glamour of the Premier League and high division.
Coming from someone like you who wants to get into the industry, I'm going to assume at top level, hopefully one day covering Premier League football or even higher than that, international football. Do you think having this experience for you going forward is absolutely vital, or do you think it's more like, well, you're just doing it just to, do something in that industry?
I think it's important. Definitely, it's important because it gives, even if it's not the level that you want to be at, that doesn't matter. It gives you the core skills. It gives you the work ethic. You've got to pay for yourself to go there. You've got to trek those miles to get there. You've got to do things yourself. And because you're a part of a much smaller organisation, you've got to be sort of a jack of all trades, if that makes sense. So it's so important to get that appreciation of all areas of a media organisation. Because if you go to a top Premier League club, you'll probably be focused on maybe one thing, maybe. I don't know.
Mm.
Yes, but here you've got to do everything. But like I say, it's an enjoyable experience no matter what. So yeah, I think it's vital. I do. I don't think it matters what level you go in, as long as you get that hard work, that work ethic.
Would you say that a club like Wythenshawe, or this could just be a generalization of any club like Wythenshawe, do you think that club runs on people like yourself, people who want to get experience, and also people who just want to volunteer and help out their local club?
I think it's a mixture of both because obviously I know that our kit man, he's in his 70s and obviously he doesn't get paid for it.
Mm.
He does it because he's been watching them since the 70s, and he was involved as well as a manager or something. So he just does it for the love of the game and everything. And obviously I do it for the love of the game, but obviously I want it to help me as well, help me grow. So I think it's sort of like a symbiotic relationship, if that makes sense. You're helping them, they're helping you at the same time. It's a bit of both. You've got to have passion for it, which I definitely do. You go into it thinking, oh, it's just an experience. It's just a bit of work experience. When you actually get into it, it's not. You become almost part of the family. People go to you to ask questions and stuff like that. They go to you to ask for help, and you genuinely feel an emotional connection with the club after
Mm.
a while. So yeah.
We get a lot of questions from people who obviously approach us and who want to work with us about, can it help with your studies? And obviously, I know you're studying as well. Do you think the work you're doing at Wythenshawe has transferable skills that you can take the knowledge you're learning and put it into actual, education purposes?
Yeah, definitely. Because well, in my courses, there's a bit of filming, writing, all of that. plays into my course. That's why I decided to do it. It wasn't just a random thing I picked to do on the side. It integrates with everything you do. You know, it gets you the actual physical experience rather than the theoretical experience mashed together. I really would recommend it. And also, it helps your studies in a sense because it actually gives you a target to finish your assignments by. It's like, well, I need to get it done by Saturday because I won't be able to do it Saturday because I've got a game. So it helps you to flow through your work. It gives you a structure to your week as well. So anyone wanting to do it, I recommend they do it.
How do you say you work in non-league around it? Do you ever feel like you sometimes think it doesn't get enough attention it deserves? Like, do you ever feel like you are there watching a great game as a media person and thinking, wow, if there were actual more spectators, they'd actually enjoy it? Or do you think it comes to the point where they're competing in a market where obviously in Wythenshawe you have teams like Manchester City and Manchester United who are big names who probably take a lot of football fans away from that local area and don't give it enough attention?
Yeah, but I suppose that's just the economics of it, isn't it, really? You know, you have more attention, you'll get more fans, you get more money, you get more fans, whatever. But then again, I think that the big clubs do help in a sense because if they've got an away day and someone can't make it, those fans can filter in to the lower down clubs, which I think is a bonus because a lot of Stockport fans, if they haven't got a game on at home, they'll come and watch Wythenshawe or something. It all depends. I mean, of course, I think you'd be a bit biased to say that it should get more and more attention because you probably think that players do deserve it because some things that you see are spectacular. But at the end of the day, it's just the economics. It's never going to be thousands of people there unless you progress. Obviously, that's very, very, very. Yeah, I'd say yes. I would love to see more people down, get more attention, but it's just the way of the world. Unless you progress, people.
Do you sometimes think that the work you're doing at Wythenshawe, if you had, say, for example, do you ever feel like you're almost constrained? Do you ever feel like, if I had say, for example, a lot of clubs that we talk to don't really have a set media budget or a marketing budget. Do you ever think if you had a budget you could work with, you could do something bigger for the club? Or do you sometimes think, well, if I had a budget, there'd be more pressure on me to deliver? As a student who is working in an industry that is competitive at all levels, on and off the field, do you think you have the right amount for you? Or do you think if you had a budget, then you could think, yeah, I could probably do this and that? But do you think you perform better without any financial help?
Obviously, it'd be nice to be granted a bit of a budget because then it makes things a lot more. You get a boost of quality. Get green screens and all that. Make different things, just things that make you stand out as a media organisation. So it is difficult on a shoestring. But at the same time, I think that kind of it poses more challenges, and it almost like make you think, oh, actually, if I did have a budget, things would be so much easier. So actually, I'm doing quite a challenging thing without any budget. So in a sense, it gives you a sense our Twitter following has grown double in the last year. So obviously and yes, that would bring added pressure as well. But hey, pressure makes diamonds.
Yeah. That's so cheesy. How before we had all these problems and all this horrible pandemic we're going through as a society, how were Wythenshawe doing? If you had to describe it to someone who has no idea what league they are and what team even it is situated in, how would you sum up their season?
Absolutely fantastic. We were in fourth, I believe, when the season finished, but with games in hand on people above us. We were aiming to finish. I mean, we'd lost once in the league in 3 months in 2020, and I think we'd won 10 of those and drawn maybe 1. 1, and we were going up. There is no two ways about it. We were going up. We've done pretty well in the Vars as well. We were in the semi-final of the Cup, and just to have it all snatched away from you, it's genuinely, it was heartbreaking, because you just think these guys have worked so hard all year to get into that position, and like I said, they were going up. There was no two ways about it. They were going, and then it just gets clawed away from you. It's tough. It really was tough. So.
You say you're passionate about Wythenshawe, and I can tell you are passionate and enthusiastic, hence why you're wearing a jacket about it. But yeah, what I want to ask you as well, say, for example, your career takes you in a different route, and hopefully a successful route. You work, for example, BBC Manchester, and you have to cover a Wythenshawe game, and Wythenshawe have played awful, and you're doing a match report. Do you ever think that's a fear of almost being too biased to Wythenshawe, almost defending them because of what you have done for them in the past? Or do you think that is out of the question once you get older and you might become detached from the club?
I think, obviously, you'd always have a soft spot, but if you're going into something with such professionalism, you can't show it anyway. So underneath, I might think, oh, this isn't nice to watch, but at the same time, it'd be a job. So, for example, if I was working for anyone else other than Wythenshawe, I'd have the same passion for them. And then if I worked for the BBC or whoever, I'd have the passion for them. If that makes sense. Taking professionalism and passion.
We had Mark on last week, and he was talking about this journey, and it's quite an interesting topic because he's a manager. But for someone like you, do you feel like you're almost on a journey as well in football, as you obviously starting with Wythenshawe and hoping to build up your career and almost make a reputation for yourself in an industry respectively? Do you feel like you're also on a journey as well?
Yeah, I do. I feel in that sense, because when you work for a club or whatever, you feel like a fly on the wall, if that makes sense. You see everything from a very objective point of view. And it does make you sort of think about every single aspect, not just, right, I need to manage this team, right, I need to play well. It actually makes you see everything, every aspect. You see the management, you see the players, you see the fans and the backroom staff and everything, all in the same plane, if that makes sense. And even when you go on the bus with the lads and whatever, you do feel like you're going with them in battle. If that makes sense. So yeah, you do feel like you're going on a journey. Yeah, I think that's true.
Well, coming back to obviously talking about the season and stuff like that, obviously we have to mention it because it's the reason why we sometimes do these interviews. Do you feel like the FA decision, which is the hot topic around the area we cover on, do you think it was fair and just, or do you think it is that thing going around where they only care about the top leagues, the FA, or do you think it was the best of the worst case scenario?
I think if they were going to expunge steps 3 down to below step 3 and even women's as well, if they were going to do that, I would have accepted the decision if they had decided to expunge every level of English football. It feels like they've just sort of thrown the scraps to the lower leagues because no one cares about them. Whereas in reality, thousands and thousands of people with jobs depend on the amount of finance that goes into these lower leagues nowadays is immense. And I feel sorry for because I feel sorry for us, obviously, because we were in a very good position. But I feel even more sorry for those like Vauxhall Motors and South Shields who had already been mathematically promoted to the next division, and they just get that ripped away from them. Obviously, they're going through legal proceedings at the minute. But then again, they've already had the decision ratified by the FA. It did feel like, some people would say, oh, it's fair, it's the only fair thing to do, is just to expunge it. I don't think it is. If you're going to end the season, you end it with a result, and a result that is backed up by evidence. So point of the game, it's not going to be 100% accurate. You may not win your last 10 games or whatever, but at least it has evidence behind it. It has some, quality to that, to the evidence. Because it's almost like people are sitting behind a desk and saying, "Oh, those 27 games you just played, oh, that didn't happen." And what's crazy, what sums it up for me is the fact that they're expunging all results. They're saying that the goals never happened, assists never happened, clean sheets, whatever, nothing ever happened. However, they're still making the players pay their fines for their yellow cards. So the yellow cards happen,
so they can get money.
They get money for that. Like I say, I'd have accepted it if the Premier League Championship, all of the EFL and the National League as well, if they got expunged as well, I'd have accepted that because everyone's on an equal playing field. But it just feels like, oh well, they're the rats down there. Don't worry about them. It's fine, which I think is kind of disgusting. And also, like I said, I think it rewards mediocrity rather than success. How is that football? How is that football at all? It's like, for example, say if you're 5-0 up in the World Cup final in the 70th minute, right? And then the ref goes, actually, no, lads, it's raining a bit. Obviously, this whole situation is, football is very, very insignificant. With this course, it comes as second. However, it's such a rash decision. Why don't they make the decision with, there's so much time. There's so much time, and they just end it. I get there's the whole contract issues, but that can be sorted out legally. Given the circumstances, it's unprecedented. I think they've rushed into it. Why didn't they give it the same time frame they've given the higher leagues? That's the problem.
You talk about the club level, which is great, and the community level. But I want to ask you from an individual level, how do you feel about everything you've given to Wythenshawe? Because of course, like a lot of people who watch us and a lot of people in your similar position, you're volunteers. Unfortunately, at the time being, you're not getting paid for it. Do you feel like everything you've done for Wythenshawe has almost felt a bit voided now? And do you feel like it was not a waste of time, but...
I know what you said, yeah. At the time when it came, it made you feel like, wow, the entire sort of year's work, let's say 9 or 8 months work that's gone into it, of traveling, paying money, writing stuff, editing, filming, whatever, everything just felt like, all right, so that was worthless. That was worthless. In terms of the experience, no, not at all. I would do it all again. It's been a fantastic journey. It's built me up as a person. But to people who aren't in my situation as a student, just looking for experience, if this is their livelihood, this is their job, it must feel like it feels like a kick in the teeth. It's like, oh, so that work was worthless. Go do it again. Like I say, it's like, if you're at uni or college or whatever, you're on the highest grades, and then suddenly you're like, sit. Why? Because you've got to really sit in it.
Just got to do it.
So, yeah, you can see why people are a bit mixed.
Yeah. And finally, what I like to do is just ask someone in their position, respectively, what is your advice for someone who's probably watching this, maybe who wants to get involved in their local club, or perhaps someone like you who's studying at the moment and feeling like maybe my studies won't cut it enough, I need to go out there and find something. What is your advice to people like that or listeners?
Do as much as you can. Do as much. You're not going to get this time back ever again. So, obviously, do your studies, do them as well as you can, focus on them, but they're not be all or end all. This is real life. Go out and get as much experience as possible, meet as many people as you can. Just make sure that your time is filled, because there's a lot of free time at uni.
Especially now.
Exactly. So just try and do as much as you can, because otherwise you might, because you'll get your degree, but then again, so will 30,000 other students or whatever. So what makes you stand out? Hopefully, by what I'm doing here, is a step to making that. That would be my advice: is do as much as you can, embrace it, embrace the challenges, and if things come your way that seem like it's too much, just plow through it. Try and do it as best you can. That would be my tip.
It's a good tip, and it's a very good tip. And from everyone from WDSportz, as well as myself, we wish you all the luck, Harry. And it was great talking to you today.
You too. You too. Take care, man.
Thank you.